to the top.
Frank Lee made the beat.
What it do, KTTV? This is KT, and I'm coming at you live with another episode of the Daily K Podcast. And on the second episode of Wellness Wednesday, I have entrepreneur, coach, and all-around awesome woman, especially if you heard that pre-chat, Miss Rachel Corcoran. How you doing today, Miss Rachel?
I'm doing awesome. Thank you so much for having me. I'm loving being here.
Look, I appreciate you, coming from around the world, talking to me from the future, is New Zealand. So thank you for coming on and taking some time out of the future.
Oh no, it's a pleasure. It's quite funny how all that works, isn't it?
So how have you been doing during this pandemic and just staying safe in your area? As we check in for Wellness Wednesday.
I think in terms of big picture in the world, we're doing good. New Zealand's a tiny place in comparison to, even this, just the States on its own and stuff like that. So, and because we're that little bit isolated, we've managed to avoid any of the major crashes, I think. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, we're all doing okay. Our numbers are a lot lower and everything as well. So we don't have quite the same tension, I suppose, as what the rest of the world does. The fatigue is setting in now, though. We've had, similar kinds of lockdowns to some other countries, particularly one subset of our country has. Mm-hmm. And I think that's playing out a little bit now in terms of, brain fatigue and stuff like that. But overall, in terms of numbers, we're good. And we've been personally good. Our bubble's been fine and haven't had too much, kind of to worry about in terms of that, I think, yeah.
And that brain fatigue, look, as we hear today and we're talking about the happy, healthy, fit female, one thing about it is being happy. And so it's been a lot of stress, and so whether high numbers, low numbers, the fear of just being part of a number really can take you out, as I deal with people in the schoolhouse. And so just getting into a little bit of background about you. So many times, I guess when we find ourselves on the mission to support others, it comes from a deeper place inside us. And so thinking about that as I did your research, give us a little bit of background on the journey that led you to even start the happy, healthy, fit woman brand. I'm going to put it out there.
Yeah, cool. It's actually probably quite a long journey when I look back at all of the different, I suppose, threads, for want of a better word, that have led me to this point now. So even when I was a teenager, I was interested in health and all of that kind of stuff. And, as luck would have it, my mother went to the doctor one day and got diagnosed with really high cholesterol, which is a family trait. It's a genetic thing. They've got heart conditions and everything. And, that was during the 80s. So she was told to go vegetarian because that was kind of like the thing to do back then. And all the research was saying that animal fat was bad for us and all that kind of stuff. So I signed up alongside her just thinking that was going to be the healthy thing to do, and it didn't work for me at all. One, I struggled doing it. I was just hungry all the time. Two, I actually started getting I got glandular fever during that time, and I got it really bad. So I was off school and everything, and I have a funny feeling I started putting on weight as well. I can't quite remember, but I'm pretty sure that actually happened for me as well. So, and it definitely didn't work for mum's cholesterol. Yeah. So that was kind of like, thrown aside without much kind of thought. And then the next thread, I suppose, was I started rowing really at quite a high level towards the end of my college, which is your high school, kind of age group. So, and wanted to break into the New Zealand under 23 side. So was rowing with Olympic level rowers, rowing under Olympic champions and, world-class coaches and all of that kind of stuff. And that was during the phase where athletes were told to carb load and all of that kind of thing. I was under a nutritionist And she was literally telling me that I was lying to her because my performance was going down. I was somehow putting on weight despite the fact that I was training 3 to 4 hours a day and all of that kind of stuff. And I kind of eventually just got sick of being told that I was a liar because I was following it to a T. And, you know, kind of threw that aside. And it wasn't until I moved into a flat with a whole lot of, there was 3 other guys in it actually, and they were all high level athletes. And it was summer here again. So, you know, lots of barbecues and stuff. And they just like cooking steak and salad. And funnily enough, at the time, my weight kind of righted itself. My performance went up and all of that kind of thing. And I just, again, didn't make a connection because I wasn't looking for it. So I suppose fast forward into that, I didn't make that New Zealand side. I kind of got ditched from elite rowing, level rowing, and had always, like, since I was 5, I wanted to go into the police force. So that was what I actually did. And went through all of that. And just a couple of years into that career, I started just feeling kind of underwell. I wasn't sick, but I knew that there was something kind of going on with me. And I went to kind of like a range of doctors. And in the end, they were just telling me it was all in my head. And I was kind of like, So I ended up ditching that career because I thought a big part of it might be the shift work and stuff and not sleeping properly, and went into the personal training field. So that was where, you know, this kind of the start of this career, I suppose, came in, but was still feeling unwell. So it turned out that I went to my doctor it was a Wednesday, actually. I actually remember at lunchtime on a Wednesday. And she kind of had a poke around, I think, just to make me feel like she had done something for the $50 she was going to charge me for the 10 minutes that I was in there. Didn't say anything. And I kind of thought, it doesn't feel normal. So I had to go to my osteopath the next day. And osteopaths here, I don't know whether you guys use the same word, just do a bit of a back tweak and everything just to kind of keep everything in line, because obviously I was working with weights and stuff all day. And I said to him, do you know how to feel, you know, internal organs, you know, palpate a tummy area? And he said, yeah, I do. And he immediately said to me, your liver and your spleen are so inflamed, it's not funny. There's something major going on with you. And I was like, I've been trying to say this for like 2 years now. So he sent me to a very specific doctor who was a general practitioner, so fully qualified medical doctor here, but had done natural health sciences and nutritional health sciences and everything on top of it. And he took a hair sample. So this was 25 years ago now. So in New Zealand, we had to send it over to the States. It was the only place that could, you know, kind of measure it. And it came back that I had really bad arsenic poisoning. So it was kind of like, while that was horrible to hear, it validated how I had been feeling and the fact that I was right to pay attention to what I was feeling and listening to my body and stuff like that. So at the same time, because I was, you know, personal training people and stuff, we were going through this kind of phase of, okay, one of the things that I was kind of employed to do by the international branch was to put a diet and nutrition and exercise package together for the international market. And they were trying to say that everybody should be doing this exact same thing. And I'm kind of like, well, no, they shouldn't be, because everybody, yes, we're human, but it stops there. We've all got different DNA. We've all got different backgrounds coming in. We've all got different environmental factors that we've got to deal with. We've all got different stresses and stuff like that. So one program is not going to work the same for every single person. And you can tell that when you try and get them to do it. It will work really well for one group. It will work so for another. And then for another group, they'll just really struggle. So kind of all of those things, when I started and actually sat down and thought about it, was like, okay, no, we need to do better here. We need to treat people as individuals. So I think my whole stick in terms of like the saying that I kind of have is general health knowledge is useful, personal health knowledge is power. So that's where that kind of all came from. And the happy, I suppose, is you've got to, your body, your brain, you know, all of that has to sing alongside of it. You can't force somebody into doing something if it's not what their body wants to do. It will just rebel at some stage. So yeah, it's all about kind of making it easier for the person at the time, making it doable long term, and every facet of it working for them so they're happy throughout the whole period, really.
Man, that is awesome. Ooh, just thinking about those personal stories. I had a lady on earlier, Miss Regina, and so she was saying just going with her mom, and then everything started from there. And so with you, did they find out like where the poison and how did it happen, or?
Well, we had to make an assumption at that stage, but it's probably a fairly accurate one. And because cadmium and mercury was actually really high as well. So the arsenic was major high, but I also had high cadmium and mercury. And when I was in the police, I got transferred to one of the most beautiful parts of New Zealand. So if anybody's ever coming to New Zealand, go to Nelson. It's just stunning. So because we didn't know how long we were going to be there, we were actually just renting a farm cottage actually. So back in at that stage, because it was just a rental and stuff in a farm, like it was in the wops really. It was on like a metal road and there was only 2 houses down that road and everything. So services, it wasn't normal kind of town city services. So our water tank, we had a rainwater tank, so collected the rainwater, but it wasn't attached to the plumbing for some reason. So me thinking, clean, green New Zealand water, I was just taking the water out of the tap, which came from the river, which ran right next to our cottage. So because the arsenic, the cadmium and the mercury were in it, what we are assuming is that it was in the water table and I was drinking it because there was a forestry and plant where they processed all the wood and stuff, and all of that stuff is in the stuff that they use to tannalize, to sort the wood to do what they've got to do to it. Wow. So yeah, we're assuming that the residue from that has been seeping into the water table, and I was the lucky one drinking it.
Wow, well, I'm glad you kept at it, right? Because you're drinking water often, so this is consistently happening and it is advancing whether you knew it or not.
Yeah, man. And for a long time I wouldn't have known it until it got to a point where it was kind of, and luckily through that time we moved away from there. So it wasn't, while it wasn't rectifying because it had got to a point where my liver, couldn't cope with it, I wasn't getting any more in either. So that was probably the saving grace of it.
That's it. Oh man, deep. So as we stated in the title, today is about understanding the relationship between balance and synergy and which one is best. And so as I read about the synergy versus balance, it really just kind of opened my eyes to it. For me, it was understanding, if I say balance, it's almost like I'm fighting between two, right? But if I say synergy, they are working. But don't let me. I digress. In your opinion, please help me. And tell us a little bit more of your thoughts on that concept to see how they correlate.
So mine's not dissimilar to yours, and that I kind of, what led me into it was, for the last 20 years, people have been talking about work-life balance. So that was kind of where I started kind of thinking about this concept, I suppose. Because for me, balance in particular, I really, for some reason, the picture comes up in my head of the old school, scales where there's one kind of up here and one down here. And for them to balance, you have to have, both of them need to be, weigh the same, really, doesn't it? So especially when you're talking about work-life balance, that means work is in one side of it and the rest of your life, like the whole rest of your life, is in the other one, which just seems to me to be, well, I don't think it's going to work, because the rest of life has got lots and lots of facets to it. So I think in terms of, life involves kids, it involves partners, it involves friendships, it involves, spiritual, it involves emotional, mental, all of that different, your own physical health and everything as well. So we can't expect ourselves to thrive if we've got that looking, when all of this side should have so much more. So when I look at the other term in terms of synergy and stuff like that, to me, it's like knowing how and when in your own life that things can have a little bit more emphasis put on them, and the others take a little bit of a back seat in whatever quantities they need to without totally leaving them behind. So the way I kind of look at it is, if you think of your favorite rock band or whatever, there's lots of different facets to it. There's a guitarist, there's a bassist, there's a drummer, singers, front singers, backing singers, all of those different kinds of things. And for that piece of music to come together and sound the way it does, one part of it will shine at one time, the others will take a little bit of a back seat. At various times, they will all come in together and they will all play at a certain level. And then one of them will drop out and one of them will come to the fore, and those kinds of things. So that to me just kind of represents the way life, I think, should go, in that sometimes we do need to concentrate on one facet a little bit more. We don't want to we don't want the others to stop, but they need to sit in the background sometimes, so that we've got the energy and the control over it, so that it just sings and it makes this beautiful piece of music, as opposed to it fighting against each other.
Look, I'm sitting here evaluating as you're speaking, like, okay, let's see, I'm guilty, right? But the most awesome thing that I've just taken is, look, everything else should be over here, not these two. Like, I'm missing so much, right? Wow. Okay. And I think about applying that to work. So in my district we do Stephen Covey. And so you think about, I think it's number 6, but synergize, the habit of creative cooperation. And so it's the teamwork, the open-mindedness, and the venture of finding new solutions to old problems. When you're working and you're coaching these women or coaching these men, how are you telling them to use this information that you're talking about and take it back to work with them? Maybe they need things outside of work to find synergy.
So I think there's probably 2 ways of answering that question. So if I go full on into like the corporate world for a minute, and especially if you've got somebody that's like a team leader or a CEO or something like that, it's about letting the people shine, focusing on their talents and letting that come through as and when it needs to. I've always remembered this one client when I was just starting out as a PT. Actually, he was the CEO of one of the major advertising companies in this country, and probably Australasia wide, I think, as well. And he kind of came in one day and said, what would you think if you heard the word bugger in an ad, which, swear word? And I was going like, well, I don't mind. I'd probably prick my ears up a little bit, actually. And he was like, I actually don't like it, but I have a funny feeling I should just let the creatives do their job, get out of their way, and let it run. And he did. And that became one of New Zealand's biggest and most loved and longest running ads that this country has ever seen. So that to me is about, again, just letting certain facets and roles shine where they need to in the work context. So I suppose that answers the first, arm of it. And secondly, if we're looking at it in terms of wanting to get the best out of each and every employee, it only takes a few questions, I think, at the start of the day. One, how are you feeling today? And if they're a little bit under, not putting so much pressure on them. If they're having a good day, rolling with it and letting them work in their best way as well. So I'm all about finding somebody's own best way for creating, optimizing health. You can translate that into a job site for, each team creating whatever they need to the best of their ability, means that some people need to shine at sometimes, other people need to take a back seat instead of kind of competing with each other. So I think it's all about one, knowing your staff really well, and the staff being able to say, this is what I do well, this is what I need help with, this is where I take a back seat, and letting them run with it to a degree, having that trust.
Look, I was cheating. That question was for me. Hey, I appreciate awesome work right there. I got to take that in. I received that. So since the pandemic, you talk about the numbers and so much was going on. Now with the virtual, or are you taking clients outside of New Zealand?
Yes. Yep.
Wow. And
yeah, so it's worldwide.
No, what you say?
It's worldwide. So much of the people on my Facebook page, like the public page, are from the UK and America.
So that was my point. So as you talk to for instance, let's take the women. So as you talk to the women around the country, what are some of the top issues, or either just one that you dealt with a majority of your women, and how are you coaching them through that one issue?
What seems to be coming through now is that people want to have their kids see them treating themselves well and doing it properly, as opposed to kind of constantly bashing themselves. And, I think especially my generation have got a real tendency to kind of say out loud in front of their children, I don't feel good, I should be better at this, I'm overweight, and eat differently to them and all of that kind of stuff. So what seems to be coming through, and I'm loving it, is that they want to be doing good things in front of their children, so that their children, don't grow up with the same kind of, or watching them do stuff and then having them say the opposite.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That is it. That is so real. As I think about my own family, I think about what have we said, in front of my nieces and nephews, or what have we said, or, just being an elementary parent. And so even in those conferences, you think about those, and just dealing with it recently of a kid who's really internalized those pieces. And so, just thinking about, and then by the time that they believe it, now you're putting them through counseling.
Yeah.
Wow. That's it, man.
I mean, kids take in so much, don't they? And even if you're not saying it, they're watching.
Come on now. So 20 years in the game, veteran. I know you have courses on the website. Today, I'm so glad that we're getting to talk just really about the woman. So if they have the time and they say, I'm more interested in Miss Rachel, they want to look at the courses, where should they start first, and what is it about?
So we actually do a range of things. We've got one-off courses that they can kind of just jump into. We've got a membership now as well that's kind of not long started. So they get deliverables kind of every week within that. So that ranges from masterclasses to habit check-ins to exercise instruction and all of that kind of stuff as well. And then we do the one-on-one side of it. So if they just go to the website, which is happyhealthyfitfemale.com, all of that stuff will be in there. So there's obviously just the usual click buttons to go into the various options there. But they can read all about it there.
Man, that is it. And so one that I was looking at was, you think about the go-go world we living in. 14 days in 23 ways. So most women want to see that immediate change. And because by the time they seek help, a lot of the times they're at the end of the rope.
Yeah.
So how does this course help you, I guess, become better in those 14 days? And what inspired you to write something of a fast track like that?
So it's not so much a fast track to seeing major results, because everybody's really, really different. And I am kind of one of those coaches where if somebody says to you, you're going to see major results in a really short time, I'm like, run. Your body doesn't work like that. So what this course in particular is about is, and it's come from just seeing multiple clients over the years and seeing what their tripping points are. So this course is about setting themselves up for success. So taking 14, so what quite often happens is people will jump into a challenge or jump into weight loss or jump into a program where they're all of a sudden going to run 10Ks and, that kind of, they've entered an event, so they're going to do this. And they haven't set themselves up for the success. They've just kind of gone, this is what I've got to do or what I think I have to do to get there. And it's kind of the same as picking yourself and your kids up to go on a trip somewhere. You set yourself up. You book a hotel. You put petrol in the car. Like, you plan it, and you make sure that the things are going to work. So the 14 days in 23 ways is just that planning phase and setting them up so that what they do after that is going to be successful. They're going to have a really easy run at it. So it's just little bite-sized things that they can do to get rid of all the rubbish that might get in the way, that might trip them up along the way. So they've got a better run at success, basically.
And that's a good program in itself, because, man, just doing the pre-work is so important. When I talked, like I said earlier tonight, we talked about the mental side of gastric bypass and that surgery and what goes into it. But the biggest part of being successful in it is doing that front work of talking to the dietitian, talking to that therapist. And so, man, not a quick fix, like you say, but still very impactful, because now you can kind of just take off from there.
Yeah. And it's simple little things that are going to kind of help you in other facets of life too. So like an example is just going around the inside of your house for a start, and just kind of making a list of all the things that I refer to as brain drainers. So those are the things that when you go into a room, like a door handle might have needed fixing for the last 6 months. And every time you go in there, you're kind of like, should have done it. Can't, and it's just, it creates a log jam, I suppose, in your head, and it adds to that brain fatigue that we're experiencing now. So if you can get rid of some things, or at least have a plan in place so that that they're getting dealt with, then it's not kind of like, okay, today in my program, I'm supposed to do this exercise, but finally this damn door handle has got to me and I'm going to fix it. So I'm going to put the exercise aside. So, and we'll be doing that with other facets of life as well. That door handle, it might seem like a silly example, is going to be playing into other things. Like every time you go in and out of it, it just sits there.
Like that pile of clothes that you didn't fold up when you took them out the dryer. I'm with you. I'm with you so much. So what's next for you? And what's next for the happy, healthy, fit woman?
We're riding along really well at the moment with Happy, Healthy, Fit Female. I'm loving where it's at, and just kind of am enjoying getting new people in and coaching those people. And so I love my job. Like I get to meet such frigging cool people, and just knowing that you've kind of made a difference, like that's the selfish side of it. Like I get a ton out of coaching them. So I'm just looking forward to meeting new and exciting people. And we're looking at kind of expanding a little bit more towards the solopreneur and small business side of things, so that we can, a lot of what I do can actually do a double duty in terms of improving staff wellbeing and stuff like that. But I want to kind of stick with small business as opposed to going, kind of huge corporate and stuff. I think, especially, with this pandemic and everything going on, it's the small businesses in particular that are suffering. So if we can keep, at least morale and their health and everything a little bit higher, then it's going to take some pressure off, I think, that realm. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, that is it. Happy, healthy, fit female.com. If you don't know, now you know. Oh man, well, I want to say thank you tonight, Ms. Corcoran, for coming on, taking some time out of the busy day to really just, man, give us some good info, about what we need to be doing as far as taking care of ourselves, And a little background on you. And I want to say, just keep being awesome.
Thank you. You
Yes.
too. Love your work in the world.
That will do it for us. I want to say thank everybody. Make sure you tune in tomorrow. I'll have my superintendent on, Mr. H.D. Chambers. This is KTTV and Miss Rachel from the, break it down one more time.
New Zealand.
Happy,
healthy female from New Zealand.
from New Zealand.
Yeah,
KTTV signing out.
Yeah.
100.
This is Darnell Broadcast Houston.
This is Dr. Tamara Beckford.
Hey, this is Candace.
This is London Underwood.
This is Kirsten Bass with Inner City Greens, and you're watching.
Y'all are now tuned in to
KTTV.
KTTV.
KTTV.